Another day without Paolo, another game filled with disappointment. Why the Orlando Magic have lost the most key part of themselves and what they need to do to survive. Today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is November 4th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic fall to the Dallas Mavericks. And there's a lot of the same themes and same issues as their loss Friday to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Why the Magic have lost the most important part of themselves and why it's more important that they get that back than anything else. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's great Locked On podcasts covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for. The Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Don't forget, too, your favorite podcast, that's us, now has a newsletter. Interesting, the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Orlando Magic lost to the Dallas Mavericks 108-85. The game was not as close as that final score would indicate. And very clearly, the Magic are going through it right now. There are ups and downs to every season. You're going to have some low points. And right now, the Magic are struggling to find themselves. Again, we'll get to the point where results matter and really judging this team back on results. But clearly, and this is an indictment of them, but clearly the team isn't there yet. Right now, frankly, we're trying to figure out how the Magic survive. And we'll talk more about this on Wednesday's episode of Locked On Magic. But right now, the goal is survival. How do the Magic get to the end of this road? Get to Paolo Banchero's triumphant return in December or January, whenever it is. How do they get there and still have something to play for? How do they position themselves to take advantage of having a superstar back? How do they make the most of this season? And look, there will be time to get into the flaws that were apparent and are now even more apparent. In the way the Magic are playing this year, in the way the Magic are playing with Paolo out. Right now, there's no trades to make. Let's be real. The trade market doesn't open until December 15th. They could do some small stuff, but teams don't make trades this early in the season. It's not going to happen. This is the team the Magic have, and they got to figure out a way. They are good enough. They are talented enough. They've got to find a way. And plain and simple, what we saw Sunday night against the Mavericks, that is unacceptable. The Magic found it again. They played with better effort in the third quarter. The fourth quarter was a wash. The first quarter had some good moments, and they got a little overwhelmed. The second quarter, a 35-18 quarter, same as it was Friday night against Cleveland in the first quarter, but this time it happened in the second. The Magic, I don't want to say they quit because I don't think that's necessarily the case. But you could see the heads drop. You could see the shoulders sloop. You could see the frustration begin to win. This is a Magic team that has long been defined by joy. Jamal Mosley talks about how this team has to play with joy, how it's a defining feature of who these players and these people are. So before we get into anything tactical that this team needs to do, besides make some freaking shots, before we get into what this team has to do to be successful, the Magic have to do one thing and one thing only. They have to find joy in what they're doing. Look, these guys, these players have each other's back. I have no doubt of that. They believe in each other. They will fight for each other. We saw it with Jalen Suggs literally consoling a distraught Wendell Carter on the bench after he injured his foot in this game. These guys are giving it their all. This isn't an issue of effort or anything like that. But the reality is the margin for error is small. The reality is if the Magic want to accomplish all these goals that they have, it starts with them limiting their mistakes and frankly, at times, making up for them. The Magic have to play better. I'm not going to sugarcoat that part. I'm not satisfied with the way that they're playing. Their effort is okay, but the second quarter, the way I would describe the second quarter is when I play 2K and I'm playing someone that I know is better than me and they're just jacking up threes and I can't hit a freaking layup and I want to throw my controller at the wall and throw my controller out the window and throw stuff around my apartment. The second quarter was a rage quit. And that actually makes things worse. Wanting to do all that stuff, even if you're accepting the inevitability of your defeat, that actually makes a 15-point game, a manageable deficit that you can go back from, into a 30-point game. And not that the Magic did any of that or lost their cool. You know, Cole Anthony kind of did with that forearm shiver to Dwight Powell, but the Magic allowed Dallas to embarrass them. We're going to go back to some tanking terminology here. 30-point losses, and this was a 30-point loss, say more about the losing team than they do about the winning team. And Dallas played really well. And Dallas is a difficult team for the Magic. Dallas and Cleveland and Oklahoma City tomorrow on Monday are all really difficult teams for the Magic to have to figure themselves out against. They are not going to allow this team to make mistakes. And the Magic made mistakes. And honestly, the biggest one was not turnovers. It was not anything other than they missed a lot of good looks. And in that regard, the Magic should be encouraged and should be thinking we have to correct some things, but we're fine. The Magic still gave up only 108 points, although fourth quarter didn't matter, but defense still work in progress. The Magic's biggest defensive problems were that they missed shots, and that led to transition, and that led to mismatches, and yeah, it's rough. It's rough out there. But what cannot happen, and what will hurt this team's ability to be competitive, because again, that's what this is about. Give yourself a chance to win. You can't do this if you're not going to be in the fight. It's not the Magic to lose this joy, to lose this camaraderie, to lose this togetherness. It's not that everyone's pointing fingers. It's not that there's, arguments going on the court. It's literally being happy. It's obviously hard to be happy when you're losing by 20, when something that was so simple a week ago is now incredibly complex. But that's also who this team is. This team is defined by this joy. This team is defined by by being able to enjoy each other and to noticeably enjoy each other on the court, to play with this intensity and physicality and this smile on your face. That's who this team is. And Paolo being out shouldn't change that part. There are tactical things the Magic have to do, and we're going to get to that here in a minute. But the problem for the Magic right now is less about the X's and O's. And everyone was talking to me trying to say the Magic's offense is abysmal. Jamal Mosley didn't play an offense. It's like, no, he did. It's more advanced. It's more complex than it's ever been. It just depended on Paolo Banchero. He is a matchup nightmare. He picks the spots that he wants and collapses defense by his presence. He is a superstar. And the Magic haven't adjusted to not having that. The Magic haven't figured that part out yet. How to function without him. And again, we're going to get to some simple fixes here in a minute. But the issue is not about X's and O's right now. The issue is truly about joy and belief. Do the Magic believe they can win? Are the Magic enjoying each other on the court? Playing with the selflessness that defines this team. Playing with the intensity on defense that defines this team. That's the real question right now. And everything else revolving around this team is not going to change until that changes. Jamal Mosley is less a tactician right now than a psychologist. Because not that Paolo is gone for the season, but this team is in a daze still. This team is still coming to grips with and understanding what's ahead of them without their star player, without their brother. And look, Paolo's still with the team. He's still contributing in every way that he can. But this is a massive loss. It's traumatic, especially the way that it happened. And the Magic got to find their way to move on from it. The Magic got to find a way. And that's obviously on Jamal Mosley. He's got to get this team believing again. And frankly, that may not happen until they get some shots to go win. They get a win. They get that first win under the belt. And they're like, okay, this is how we do it. So let's talk simple fixes. Let's talk about some ways the Magic can get themselves back on track. We're going to talk about that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at BetterHelp. You know, it is November. The Christmas decorations are begrudgingly starting to go up, but Thanksgiving is right around the corner. And this is the time of year when we reflect and think about what we are thankful for. I'm sure the Magic are very thankful for Paolo Banchero. But sometimes it's hard to remind ourselves that we're trying our best to make sense of everything. And in this crazy world, it isn't easy. It's sometimes hard to take a moment to be thankful for yourself. So here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, to thank for all your blessings, but also thank yourself and all the work that you do. I know I need that reminder all the time. Therapy can help you reconnect to yourself and be thankful for all that you have and all that you give to yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Like I said, we didn't dive into the details of the game. We'll get to the box score at the end of the show, but the Magic's issue to me, isn't about tactics. I know this is going to sound weird after a game when the Magic scored 85 points, shot 33% from the floor, and 19.5% from three. I don't think the Magic's offense is the problem. I think that they're getting good looks. They were 19 for 40 in the paint in this game. They missed some layups. They missed some open threes. They got good looks. There's some threes they took that were a little too much, and I'm going to get to one of my big fixes here in a minute. But they took some threes that were a little too quick. But I think generally the Magic worked too slowly. Felt like the offense was stuck in the mud. Actions were being run pretty late, and that led them to kind of take the first thing that they could get. I'm not saying the Magic need to run at a breakneck pace, but they need to be faster. They need to be quicker. And that'll get them more bites at the apple. They get them more looks, more opportunities. It just like, it's an attitude thing. Like it still feels like the Magic are in this daze and they're not there. They're not playing free. They're tight because there's a lot of pressure now. They've got to, it's a lot of pressure. Players are new roles. Defenses are defending them differently. Those open shots from earlier in the season aren't quite there anymore. It's a challenge. And like Franz Wagner understands that. He's got to increase his volume and be more aggressive. I loved his aggression in this game, even though he missed some bunnies that he needs to make. Jalen Suggs is trying to do a little bit more, sometimes a little too much on both ends. But I got to repeat this. It's more about attitude and belief right now than tactics. But having said that, when a team is struggling, when a team loses such an important player, I think it's really important to just get back to basics. You've got to simplify everything because essentially the Magic were built and went through training camp preparing to have Paolo Banchero. Banchero's missed only 10 games his entire career before this season. They had no, yes, you need to be prepared, but they had no reason to think that, if we're going to miss Paolo, we'll miss him for 5-6 games tops. To be without him for 20 games, not on the bingo card. It's always a possibility, but not on the bingo card. Especially this early in the season while everyone's still getting their legs under them. This is a massive shock to the system. But having said that, having said that, the Magic have to simplify everything. And to me, what I think Jamal Mosley, if we're going to talk about tactics, what Jamal Mosley, I think, has to do is he has to start by saying, okay, we've got all these layers we can add on, but this is a brand new team. We've got to play, within something similar to what we're doing. Obviously, it's not like they need to reinvent the wheel here, but we need to play a different way. There's no Paolo Banchero. Franz Wagner cannot pretend to be Paolo Banchero. He's got to be Franz Wagner. So what does that mean? Maybe a little bit more motion in the offense, a few more pick and rolls, try and spread out. Honestly, I think the Magic should go back to shooting 33s a game instead of 40. Decrease the three-point attempts. Stretch that game out. Make sure you're getting downhill to the paint. Don't just jack up threes. You can maybe get away with that a little bit more with Paolo because he just generates so many open threes and corner threes. It's harder to get away with that here. But I think what the Magic really need to do is, and I was thinking about this a little bit. When James Borrego took over as the head coach of the Orlando Magic after they fired Jacques Vaughn, Magic won 25 games that year. They went 10-20 over the final 30 games. Not a great win percentage. I'll grant you that. But James Borrego came in and said, we're going to simplify things. We are going to win the paint. That was our job. That was That was the directive. They're going to win the paint. They're going to defend the paint, give up threes, whatever. They're going to defend the paint. And guess what? The Magic carved a little bit of a defensive identity at those final 30 games. They won 25 games. 10 of them happened in the last third. That means they had 15 in the other 52. All things considered, that's pretty good. This team is better than that team. All due respect to Nikola Vucevic, to rookie Aaron Gordon, to Evan Fournier. This team is better than that team, is more talented than that team. So if I were Jamal Mosley, I would literally come up with a singular goal. Because again, it's about survival. We're not, we can start stacking wins once we get a win. But really simplify what this team's going to be about. Want to be about defending the paint? Defend the paint. That's the goal. The Magic's defense got eviscerated in this game. And a lot of that is because of transition and because the Magic were out of position, getting back in track from giving up, from missing so many shots. Offense and defense are tied together. The Magic got to make shots around the rim. I think Jamal Mosley after the game was generally pretty happy with, or at least early on, the looks that the Magic were getting. And obviously, as the game wore on and the mistakes started piling up, the team got frustrated. They got to make shots. Like, they had two of their worst shooting games of the year in the last two games. Worst time for that to happen? Certainly Paolo's absence had something to do with that. The Magic also missed a lot of good looks. They missed a lot of open shots in the last two games. But the Magic got to find a way. They'll shoot better. It's the NBA. They're going to have a hot shooting night at some point. And they're going to probably win that game because they're not doing so many terrible things. But they got to really just simplify everything. I would say take fewer threes, play faster, focus on defense. If you got to drag teams into the mud right now, drag them into the mud. If games, like pace-wise slow to a crawl and they're just defensive battles, that's the way it's got to be. In fact, the one thing I would say is we know the Magic are going to struggle offensively. They're not going to be efficient on offense, and that's fine. This team has to defend. Paolo Banchero is an improved defender. He is not a good defender yet. He is not one of the Magic's best defenders. And they should be able to function defensively without him. In this game, the Magic did not defend well at all. Let's make that really clear. From a numbers standpoint, they had a 106.9 defensive rating, which is pretty good. But in the first half, they gave up 127.5 points per 100 possessions. Dallas didn't even shoot the three that great. For all we want to talk about Orlando missing threes, they didn't even shoot that great. Dallas ended up, let me pull up my box score here, excuse me. Dallas shot 10 for 32 from three. Only two more threes than Orlando. That was not the issue. The issue was Orlando couldn't make shots, and Dallas just blitzed them and buried them early in the game. Made the second half irrelevant. So the Magic got to get back to their basics. That has to be the message. And I know they don't have a practice. They're not going to have any practice time. They're not doing a shoot around against Oklahoma City, although I'm sure there'll be some ballroom work. Certainly some video work before the game. They won't practice on Tuesday because of the back-to-back. They play Wednesday. They come home Thursday. They're not going to practice Thursday because it's the day after a long road trip. Home game Friday against a good New Orleans team. They may practice Saturday. They may not. I'm not sure about that. They're going through it right now. And they got a game Sunday against Washington. They're going through it right now. No doubt about it. But they got to get back to their basics. And again, that's playing with joy. That's defending at a high level. That's putting pressure on the rim. That's how they get out of this. That's how they find themselves again. That's how they carve an identity. This is a brand new team. What they did with Paolo, put that on the shelf until you need it, until it's ready in December. They can't play that way. They got to carve their new identity. They got to figure out what they're good at. And they should know what that is. It's their defense. Lean on that defense. What can't happen is missed shots affect defensive effort. And I think that's what happened in the second quarter. There's a lot of frustration right now on that Magic sideline. And the vibes are not good. It's a team that is built on vibes, and the vibes are not good right now. But they are the ones that can change it. And that's what it's going to take. Let's go through the box score. We'll talk about how the Magic struggled in this one. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. FanDuel has so many great offers for you on Monday Night Football. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Not only can you get great prop parlays with FanDuel, they also have the spreads, obviously, with the Bucs clearly heavy underdogs against the Chiefs. 9.5 points going into Arrowhead Stadium. If you want to get ready for the busy night in the NBA on Monday, all 30 teams in action Monday night for pre-election day. The Magic currently sitting as 12.5-point dogs at Oklahoma City. Pretty fair, I would say. So visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We have not gone through the details of this game. I think they're pretty self-explanatory, and I've went through some of the key stats here, but let's go through the final box score. Again, like, sometimes the answer is simple and sometimes it's not. The answer here is quite simply the Magic don't have much of a margin for error anymore, and they made too many mistakes. And one of those mistakes is their shooting. They shot 33.3% from the floor. You're not going to win a game shooting 33% from the floor. They scored only 40 points in the first half. Gave up 65. Not going to win games like that. They scored 36 points in the paint, 18 for 40. That's been a big emphasis of mine. One of the things they did successfully against Cleveland is they got in the paint, they scored in the paint, and they got to the foul line. Magic were 15 of 19 from the foul line. So they didn't really get to the foul line this game. They didn't score in the paint. They were 18 for 40. Now, they shoot their normal percentages. They get maybe 10 more points. Let's say they get 5 more field goals or 23 or 40 instead of 18 for 40. 46 points in the paint you can live with. But getting that also opens up some shooting lanes, opens up some passing lanes. It's a challenge. And, the Magic they couldn't finish around the basket. And as Jamal Mosley pointed out, you don't finish around the basket. Your guys are kind of out of position because there's more concentration around the basket. Dallas was able to get those rebounds, get out in transition. Dallas had 19 fast break points, but it felt like a lot more. And they made the Magic pay for seemingly every mistake that they made. Look, Dallas didn't shoot the ball well from three, either 10 of 32 overall. They had 8 through 3 quarters. They shot 49.4%, but, obviously it's the Magic just aren't getting enough. Like plain and simple. Franz Wagner, 25 minutes, 13 points, 6 for 15 shooting, 1 for 2 from 3, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. A lot of people want him to shoot more threes. A lot of that is the ball needs to swing to him, and he's got more playmaking responsibilities now. I don't think Wagner is going to shoot a lot of threes here. He's been really good at spot-up threes. I don't think he's comfortable yet doing pull-up threes. I don't think we really want him shooting pull-up threes. We want him attacking the basket. And so I like that Franz attacked the basket a whole lot more in this game. He was able to get to the basket. He missed shots. He missed easy looks that he's got to make. But I like the shot volume in 3 quarters. Obviously, he's going to, again, like I think I said this after Friday's game, and Jalen Suggs also struggled. 10 points, 4 for 13 shooting, 1 for 5 from 3. He's more of your pull-up jump shooter. Only 2 assists, 4 rebounds. Didn't have a turnover. That's worth noting. Turnovers were Anthony Black problems today. 6 turnovers for him. The Magic need one of Franz or Jalen Suggs to score 25, and the other one has to score 18 to 20. Like, that's the formula. That's the path. And, I don't mind them shooting. They need to shoot. Like, those guys need to lead the team in attempts. Mo Wagner was 3 for 10. Jett Howard was 4 for 12. A lot of that coming in garbage time. 2 for 8 from 3. The Magic, have shots to fill. Paolo took 20 shots a game. They got 20 more shots to distribute elsewhere. Franz has got to take them. Jalen's got to take them. And they got to make them. And if they don't make those shots, the Magic are going to lose. And if they both struggle the way that they struggled in this game, they're going to lose big. The formula is not hard. Solving that formula is hard, but the formula is not hard. The Magic need to make shots, builds confidence, sets their defense, all that jazz, scores points. They didn't score points in this game. Like, it's not super complicated. I think the Magic liked a lot of the looks that they got. They liked the process of what they were doing. They just missed. And look, it's a problem throughout the roster. I know a lot of people will point to Gary Harris, another difficult game, 2 for 6, 0 for 3 from 3, 4 points. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 2 for 6 from 3, made 2 at least, but 7 points for him. Just not hitting shots that the Magic need him to hit. Wendell Carter, I thought he had a great game. Maybe struggled a little bit too much with the size that Dallas presented. 6 points, 1 rebound. It was an offensive rebound, 2 for 5. Really important early in the game when the Magic looked really good. But Dell was clearly hobbled and clearly not 100%. And that's not an excuse. If you're playing, you got to play well. I thought he was fine, honestly. I thought he was the Magic's best player when he was in, but obviously just not enough. And he gave the Magic everything he had, and it just wasn't enough. Jonathan Isaac off the bench, 3 points, 1 for 6 shooting, 0 for 4. Again, if you're going to take a lot of shots, you got to make them. Jett Howard, like I said, 4 for 12, 2 for 8 from 3. Mo Wagner, 3 for 10. Anthony Black, 2 points, 4 rebounds, 6 turnovers, just making a ton of mistakes. Looked like a young player in this game. That's okay. It's going to happen. If the way I would describe this game was just an avalanche of just awful. Like, everything that could go wrong for the Magic went wrong in this game. Franz had a bad game, missed layups. Jalen had a bad game. Luka got cooking a little bit, 32 points, 11 for 22 shooting. Only 5 for 13 from 3. 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 turnovers. I wouldn't say Orlando did a good job on Luka, but they didn't do a bad job on him either. Daniel Gafford had 18 points. That was the killer. 18 points, 8 rebounds for Gafford. Really just ate him up inside. The Magic just needed that size. And Wendell was a little bit more of an impediment than anyone else was. But, Mo Wagner, I love Mo Wagner. He's earned his place. He's earned the trust, but he is not a good defender. He struggles a little bit defensively, struggles a lot on the glass. He had 6 rebounds in the game, did lead the Magic in rebounding along with Franz. When his shot's not going down, everything else looks a whole lot worse for him. And it's not like he loses focus. He tries defensively. It's not an effort thing, but it's just not who he is. And again, you can't ask players to be who they aren't. They have to be who they are. And the Magic are just struggling on that. Tristan Da Silva in his first start, 7 points, 2 for 7 shooting, 1 for 4, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Didn't get free or moving as well as he did, but again, he just makes smart decisions. Generally liked his shot selection. Generally liked the way that he played. He wasn't a negative on the game, but again, he's not someone that's impacting the game to tip it back in the Magic's favor. That's ultimately on Franz and Jalen. Maybe a little bit on Mo, certainly on AB, certainly on Anthony Black. just the guys the Magic need to play well didn't play well enough on Friday and didn't play well at all on Sunday. Just plain and simple. And, again, they're playing a team like Dallas. Not that Dallas is bad. Dallas is beatable, but they're very good. You got to be very locked in. And when the Magic were locked in, they were competitive. Early in the game, they were competitive. They were in control of the game. And then they missed some shots. Dallas got some tough shots to go down. And again, you could just feel the bottom drop and just feel the energy shift. And again, just it's not about anything else. The Magic have to believe they can win again. Like, plain and simple. And it's not oh, yeah, of course, entering the game, we believe we can win thing. No, it's they're on a 10-2 run. We went from up 7 to down 3. The game ain't over. The Magic kind of felt like it was. When the Mavericks went on their run to take the lead, and, I think they took the lead eventually on like a Luka and 1 or something like that. You could just kind of feel the shoulder slump and just the energy shift. That can't happen. That's the point of this episode is that stuff can't happen. You're already at a deficit. You're already trying to climb uphill. You're climbing uphill before the game starts. That's the reality where the Magic are at. You can't put more hurdles in front of you. And that's part of it. And so, no other way to say it. The Magic have their work cut out for them right now. And it's hard, and they need guys to step up. They need their leaders to step up right now. And, I'll give Franz Wagner this credit. He spoke about it after the game. He said it's still something he's working on. As he said, he's something he knows he has to take more control of and be more assertive. And, it's something he has to think about doing. And that's good. Like he acknowledges it. He understands that. But doing it is another thing. And that's the challenge. That's the challenge right now. I can't, lay it down any easier. The Magic got to make some shots that builds confidence, but this team has to draw its energy from its defense. And again, it just wasn't there. That's all I have. I don't want to talk about this game. Monday might be ugly as well because Oklahoma City's really good. You cannot make mistakes against Oklahoma City. They're just so good. So it's a lot of work ahead for this Magic team, to say the least. The Dallas Mavericks defeat the Orlando Magic 108-85. Orlando now under 500 at 3-4. First time they've been under 500 since the end of the 2023 season. They did not go under 500 at any point during last season. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all fun places to download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, find us on Twitter there at @OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now, don't forget the Locked On Magic Daily newsletter is here. It's the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. On tomorrow's episode, we'll recap the Magic's game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll see if the Magic can take some important steps forward. Remember, that game is a 9:15 tip-off as part of the NBA's Election Day Eve lineup. Don't forget, early voting is closed now. If you have not voted yet, Tuesday is Election Day. Make your plan to vote in wherever you live, whatever election you voted. Make sure you make a plan to vote on Tuesday. It's election. It's important. Vote. That's all we need to say. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic. This has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.